The Vinpok Taktek, designed from the ground up to be used with Apple devices, featuring Bluetooth connectivity, USB Type-C, and toggling between iOS and Android. This is the best designed mechanical keyboard available for Apple devices.
Don't buy it!
Hey guys, what's going on? We're back with what I feel will be the final video for this keyboard, at least for now. So you've seen the intro, and yeah, it's a great keyboard, but seriously, don't buy it. Throughout the past week, I have been constantly working on this keyboard, and we are finally at a stage where it is usable. Now looking at this, it looks finished, it looks pretty, but so much was done to get to this point. And even right now, if you look really closely, some of the keys are like slanted, man. Look at this, what the fuck? So someone commented on the previous video that they don't like these keycaps, and I agree. They fit the Apple design language really well. However, the material that's being used and the fact that it's black, it attracts so much oil and fingerprints. It's not even, never mind. So from the previous video, we've seen, yay, we can put on the Choc switches on this keyboard. So all's good, right? All we have to do is bend the pins of 79 different switches and put them on. So the first problem that we faced was an error on my part, and we did not have enough brown switches for this keyboard. I'm so sorry. I bought the switches for a 60% keyboard, and this keyboard has way more keys than what I expected. So what I've done is, for everything on the alpha row and below, everything is using the brown switches, but up top over here on keys that I use less, I put my favorite navy Choc switches in here, and in a moment you will hear what they sound like, but let's go through the process. So desoldering has been a bitch and a half, to say the least, but part of that has to do with me being new to desoldering. So one of the problems that I faced was that I accidentally damaged a little bit of the hole and the PCB's joining line things. But for now, the desoldering was done, and I was able to move on to the next step, which was to check and see if the PCB was still working. I don't know why I didn't connect it to a computer and checking it that way, but reactive lighting was on before I desoldered everything, so I just connected it to the battery and I just checked every single switch on its own. And you'll see here the places that I have damaged the PCB, the LED did not light up, which gave me a bit of a headache, and I was not too sure how to solve this issue. But I just went on checking every single switch, and I marked out which one was not working and where was the problem, and that I would go take a look and try to fix it later. So I decided to go ahead and solder in the switches and just leave the ones that were damaged without a switch. First I pushed the switches through on all four corners, set some anchor switches up, and then soldered in the switch to the PCB. So you can kind of see what I was going for over here in this video. We have all the alphas and we have the mods and everything over here, all done with browns, and that was about all the browns I had because some pins snapped off. But there was still the problem of switches that were not connected. So I took a closer look at the PCB, and I couldn't get any footage here because it was so small, but there was some damage to the PCB where it joins up with the wiring and the routing and whatnot. I don't know the exact terms for it, but there was some damage. However, the switches were still working as far as I could tell. So what I did was I decided to do some hand wiring because it's not a lot. It took me a while to figure out that one side of the switch is for the row and one side is for the column, and you can see right here I decided to patch some small jumper cables. I know it might seem really straightforward for some of you more experienced people, but I did not know that. I did not know that like one leg was for the column and one leg was for the row. Now I know. So if anyone is following this as a guide, which I hope you don't, because this is definitely not a guide, this is a stumbling of nonsense. And so the differences for the two switches, which we have here again, don't stop at just the stems, the pins, and the mounting points. The upper housing is really different, which I did not notice. So if you look closely, the width is about the same, but the height, the original switch is slightly shorter. So that was a problem because when I tried to put the housing on, it wouldn't fit. It looked like it fit, and I was checking around, I was looking at the back, and the ports did not line up. Nothing was fitting in properly. It looked like it was, but it just wasn't. So what I had to do was to take this metal file and at every single keyhole, file it down on the top and the bottom by just that much. And first what I did was I took my leather skiving tool, and it was made of a hardened stainless steel, which was definitely stronger and harder than aluminum. And I set it to the smallest width, went through and marked every single keyhole so I know where I have to stop for the filing. After which was just a long and tedious process filing every single keyhole. Now this is really just forwarding everything for you guys so it's easier to see, but it was a long and tedious process as you can imagine. So after I was done filing every single keyhole, I put the PCB back in and I checked, and you can see right here the USB-C is not lined up still. So there was a little bit of issues that I was facing for that, and I just looked through at every single switch and see what wasn't really coming through, what was being blocked a little bit by the aluminum, and I went back and filed it even more. So I checked it again, and it seemed like most of the keys were clearing, but it still wasn't going through all the way. So I took a marker and I went through individually and marked where the aluminum was touching the switch and it wasn't fully coming through. And after I was done marking every single place where the aluminum was actually touching the switch, I went back and filed some more. Then I found a small issue where the switch was not sitting all the way inside on the top plate, and I reflowed the solder and I tried to push the switch in, and that fixed that. So after I was done making sure that all the switches were popping through on the top case, I decided to do a little mod on the bottom case just to make sure that it's not as noisy as it is. So as you can see here, I've cut some foam and put it on the bottom plate, and what I'm gonna be using is some of this Gorilla Glue, and I'm just gonna apply 1 or 2 drops just to hold the foam in place. So if you can see right next to the battery, there is a little cutout that I've made into foam because that's where the USB-C plate goes, and I can't block that. If not, it will not close. So this foam is pretty soft and it's mainly there just to prevent any pinging. And you can see these 2 screw holes, they're kind of poking through. I was thinking maybe it will be fine. I'm not sure. It should be okay. As long as everything was poking through, I'm sure that it would be able to, you know, compress, but we'll just have to see. And I'm new to this, so let's just see if it works. So when everything fit, I gave the top aluminum case a little wipe down, and I used some alcohol swabs, and I just wiped the whole top plate down as much as I can. And finally it's time for assembly. And assembly was still so painful. So painful. The little tabs that you see at the back, which switches between Bluetooth and cabled and Windows and Mac and whatnot, they were really hard to keep in place, and they were not really like holding on to the little tabs that we have. So as you can see over here, I put just a little bit of super glue just to hold it in place as I put it in, and that actually worked out in my favor. Now the USB-C, there was still a little bump. I tried everything. I wasn't sure if it was because of the switch or like a combination of all the problems that we had so far. So I took a little piece of leather and I trimmed it and I super glued it to the little cutout that was supposed to be left for the USB-C, just hoping that it would give some leverage as we clip the bottom in to push the USB-C up just by a little bit. Again, don't fucking do this because you might break something, but I was so far into this project that I really can't be fucked if this doesn't work, as long as just let me type on the damn So before I clipped anything back in, I connected the battery and turned it on, and you can see how happy I am. Everything works. Like the keys are working, the lights are working, and I was just a happy camper. So we put it back together, and you can see right here, it's just that little bit, that 1 millimeter that's not lined up. And I took a USB-C cable and tried to put it in, and it wasn't fitting. But if I pushed it in just a little, it would fit. But I was afraid that the pressure might actually snap the cable. So what I did was I put a little bit of super glue, hoping that the glue would hold it together because the clips obviously wasn't. And it didn't work out, and I managed to actually scuff up the aluminum. But anyway, there you have it. We have a completed board in front of us, and I still have not taken apart the plastic, which we are going to do right now. Absolutely beautiful. So let me just show you some of the problems that we faced. As you can see right here, there's still this ugly ass bump that's coming out, and I don't know how to make that go away, but with the feet on, you can tell it's not really wobbling, but it is wobbling a little. So I'll find a way to solve that. Probably just use higher feet. If not, I'll see what I can do to like make this bump go in. I am not opening this anymore, so I don't mind finding a permanent solution to just hold this in once and for all. So apart from that, as I showed earlier, the height of the housing is slightly different. So this is the problem that we faced on some of the keys. If you can see, when we click it, that's the actuation. There you go. There's the actuation, there's the tactile bump. But if you bottom out, especially for this spacebar, not sure if you can, you see, it's touching the aluminum. On other keys, not so much. If you see right here, there's still a little bit of space, but for some keys it is bottoming out, and you can hear it here. It's hitting the aluminum, which is it's okay. It's a small issue, but the keyboard works. So there you have it. A fully functioning working keyboard that turns on, and let me just, yeah, it's beautiful. It has your backlighting. You can change your backlight's colors. Yeah, it works. I don't suggest anyone do this. It was frustrating to say the least, but I have a completely custom keyboard for my Mac, and it actually looks like it's been designed by Mac. And I feel like that's what Vinpok was going for, because if Apple was actually going to design a mechanical keyboard, you are probably going to face the same problems when trying to mod it. Like, they're probably going to use their own in-house design switches because, you know, Apple being Apple. They're going to have like their own connections. They're going to have the one good thing, I guess, they're going to have fucking lightning on this, and at least this is USB Type-C. You're going to have keycaps that you can't find. They're going to have switches that are, you know, the whole drill. So I'm not done. I'm not done with low profile switches. This is good, but we can do better. I really appreciate all the support that we have, and here's a little teaser of what we have coming up for the channel. I have another keyboard that has not been unboxed, and we're gonna take a look at this. This should be an exciting project, and I hope you guys can follow me on that journey. So if you do like what you see, do leave something in the comments. Let me know what you feel, and let me know what else you would like to see. I don't only do keyboards, it's just that for now I'm trying to fix the keyboard issue that's been plaguing me. But yeah, thank you so much for following, and here we are gonna have the sound test. I'll see you in the next video.